Laz, could you close the doors for us, would you mind? Or Ruben will?
Now they're fighting over who gets to close the doors. All right, well, welcome everybody to Digging Deeper. If you would like to send in any questions, we got Rabbi Roy here, we got Pastor Monty, and we got Rabbi Brooks going to be coming here in a minute. Yep, he's on his way. And so we're going into chapter 27 of Matthew. We just finished up chapter 26. And if you'd like to send in any questions, my computer disconnected. I'm going to put up a QR code here in a minute. But before we get started, are there any announcements that we need to do?
Just pray for Israel. My granddaughter is there in Israel. I spoke to her yesterday, and my wife spoke to her today, but she's in a bomb shelter right now. She's in a bomb shelter, and so we got to keep the entire group in prayer. I wish that they would stay in the bomb shelter. They were thinking of going through either Amman or Cairo to exit and to fly someplace else. But right now, I don't know. I think the bomb shelter is the safest place.
All right. Well, if you have any questions you'd like to send in, we've got a QR code on the screen. It goes to roygarciasa@gmail.com, or you can send a question into the number that you see on the screen. You're also monitoring Facebook Messenger and other social media. And David is on the computer in the back. He's monitoring the YouTube chat. So if you'd like to put in something in the YouTube as we talk, he'll put it up on the screen, wave us down, so we make sure that we reference it. So we do have a couple of questions. First of all, we have a question from last week that I kind of think you guys want to readdress due to some interesting events that have been taken by. So last week, Mandy over at ORU asked about is it safe to go to take a trip to Israel? She really wants to go. There's a trip going through her university, but her mom was very worried that something might happen and it might not be the safest time to go. And so the conversation last week was, well, you're probably pretty safe.
We all said to go.
You all said to go. So do you guys want to update that? Do you guys still think the same thing? Or do you think mom was like, mom had some intuition going on?
Well, I don't even know if you can possibly even get in right now.
Yeah. You can't fly right now.
You can't fly in. So that's question. But I tell you, just wait. I don't know, and OR may delay this. I don't know what OR you might do, but I don't think this is going to be a long-term conflict, and it will end shortly. I really believe that. I don't think Iran has got any capabilities of keeping it going, and I think they're going to shut down all of their attacks against Israel soon. Well, we'll just wait and see. But just keep praying, and while you're waiting, just pray over Israel, and just start declaring peace over Israel,
Right.
and just believe that this conflict ends quickly and a peace is restored.
I mean, one of the things that we always pray for on Friday nights, and is in Scripture to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, to pray for peace. This is in
How do you say that in Hebrew?
we say Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and so that's just something that we do every Friday night. We want there to be peace. Iran calls people say, well, what does this have to do with me if I live in Kansas or whatever? And we're so far away. Well, Iran calls America the great Satan and Israel the little Satan. And so basically they see Israel as just a obstacle to get to America. So if you're living in Ohio, or you're living in Montana or Illinois, and you're saying, what does this have to do with me? Why are we even dealing with this? Well, because they want America as the main course and Israel as the appetizer, as they say. And so it's like this does affect you, so you should be grateful for this. To those people in general. For Mandy, I would just say last week we all said it's fine, but you know what? All of us, we were on the only people that knew something was going to happen were were a few people in the higher ups in the Israeli government. Not even the Iranians thought too. It was gonna be the Iranian government. And again, we need to be very clear here. The Iranian people who they don't like their government. You go on the streets of Iran, ask the people if they like their government. They far and wide hate their government, and they want friendship with Israel and with the U.S. That's just the society itself. The government is very oppressive, and so the government. The point is that the government didn't know. No one knew, and so 1 week ago everything was very different, and so that was the element of surprise. Yeah, but.
We got a comment here from Gabriel. It says, to play it safe, you should wait until you know for sure
100%.
that it is
right.
100% safe to go to Israel. That's Gabriel's advice. So, to your
I have no
point,
problem with that.
we
So
do
do you
want.
retract your statements of last week?
Last week I said Greta Thunberg was the greatest threat, but
Well, yeah,
It's
considering
different
what's
now.
been going on, to Monty's point, I mean, you wait another week and it might be safe again. They've been insanely successful in
I mean,
neutralizing any attacks.
What Rabbi Baruch was saying, I was reading today, and it was an American general was in the interview, and he was talking about the fact that Israel, because of the people of Iran, that they are agents for Israel, and they know everything Iran does. I mean, they got people within the government and every place so Israel knows every move, and has Iran intimidated because they know they can't move without it being known. They can't. So that's why I say I don't think this is going to last long, because Iran literally has no defense against what Israel can do, and it includes removing the Khomeini. So I just stay home, pray, and watch.
Doyle Betts had contacted me. Of course, Doyle, he watches us every week. He's from California. And he said that we're on the cutting edge of, how many Bible studies talk about this? Very few of them. And we're on the cutting edge of the news. But I will say something. President Trump said today, we have air superiority over Iran. They've knocked down all their F-15s and F-16s. They no longer have any. And so we have presently right now about 48% of their rockets have been, their rocket launchers have been destroyed, but they still still trying to identify the others. I don't know if anyone saw on the internet, some people were flying in a commercial airline, and they saw they're going to Saudi Arabia, but they saw all these rockets it's on the internet. They videotaped it, all these rockets on the way to Israel, and it's just devastating to know that. My granddaughter is there right now in a bunker. She's spending the night in a bunker, but we really need to pray that the Lord does a great miracle, because this could escalate into something really, really bad, but we pray that now what are the next steps? Joel asked you. Okay, here's a prediction from a preacher that used to work for the government of Israel. I don't think that they're gonna stop until all the nuclear capabilities of Iran are eliminated, and I think the next step you're gonna see within the next few days before our next Bible study, I say that we're gonna take out that big nuclear plant that's in the desert. That's my personal prediction, that it'll be taken out very, very soon.
One of the things this is a very difficult chess game, because first of all, the Israelis had the element of surprise in a way that is kind of unprecedented. The building of constructing the drones inside of Iran, there really hasn't been an intelligence operation like that. It's hard to believe it's hard to compare it to something that happened clandestinely so successful in that way. It's not over yet. Rabbi Roy's talking about the plant at Fordo and which is in the desert in the Qom region. One of the difficult things about this is the kind of weaponry that's needed is a bunker buster, and that's what America has. So America's stayed out of there now, but then if America goes in, then America will be officially involved. Now here's, as I said before in the beginning, one of the things that we need to be aware of is if there is a country saying that Israel's the little Satan and America is the great Satan. In other words, they're saying America is the main target, Israel's just, a secondary target, and they're developing these weapons of mass destruction. If that's happening, then that is in America's best interest. But it's just, we've been in several wars, and so this is where there's a lot of stress right now. There's the next 36 hours are going to be really important. So by next time we have something, we're gonna next time we have something in a meeting here, we're gonna have a lot more information. Things are gonna change by next Tuesday by a lot. So, but we need to keep on praying, and ultimately everything is for the peace. Yeah, that's it.
All right. So, to Brooks' point, and for those at home, just so it's clear that, obviously it's a Messianic Jewish congregation. We have a lot of Jewish people here. But to be clear, we also have several families from Persia here. We have several Iranian families. They have extended family at the locations that are being bombed.
That's right.
They're not just picking a side because it's their favorites. Like there's a lot of deep ties in this congregation to both sides of this.
Even you.
Even me. My in-laws, a lot of my in-laws' family is over there, and so
Are they in danger right now?
They've got extended family all over the place. Luckily, a lot of them aren't in the city proper, as far according to my wife. But yeah, there's people all over the place, and so there's no matter what's going on, they're going to be concerned. I know Israel's been saying they've been working real hard to avoid residential areas and such, but things happen. So.
Right, but it's really important to note here that Israel, you look at the strikes on Tehran and Iran in general, and they're hitting rooms in apartment buildings, not entire apartment buildings. They're hitting rooms in apartment buildings, very precise, surgically precise, whereas Iran is targeting civilians. So Israel is targeting only the top military scientists and nuclear scientists, and precisely pinpointing, and Iran is targeting civilians. Where is, just, you're not going to see anyone protesting that. It's a double standard all the way. But, just look at it. Look at the strikes on Iran. Look, they're hitting rooms within buildings, not entire buildings. Look on the strikes on Israel, which are indiscriminate. So, this is something, again, at the end of the day, it's the desire to build a future. Israel wants a future. It wants to build a future, whereas the Iranian regime is oppressing their own people and the people around the Middle East.
We've received notice already. People from Iran, since this past week, have asked for sponsorship to come to San Antonio. They live in Tehran, so we've received requests for sponsorship. We have sponsored others in the past, and they're asking for sponsorship today. We need to pray about that.
The Iranian people, again, as we'll highlight over and over again, they want to be friends with Israel and America. It's the regime, it's the people, the government that is their oppressors.
Right. So we'll definitely be in prayer. To Doyle's question, he did ask, says, Trump has posted that the Iranians should get out of Tehran. Do you think that the war will escalate? Where is Iran in prophecy? What do you think is going on and what will happen next in that region? I heard that Rabbi Roy's granddaughter is in Israel. Is she safe? So I know you were just talking about your granddaughter, that she's in Israel. She's in a bunker at the moment.
My granddaughter is in Tel Aviv right now, and we spoke with her yesterday. I spoke with her yesterday. My wife spoke to her today. She's spending the night in Tel Aviv, and she said, she called me, Papa, pray for me. And she heard an explosion, and the door swung open. But right now, there's actually videos. They're all singing and praising the Lord, and they're worshiping God with guitars and keyboards and drums, and they're singing Messianic songs. So
Wow.
the percentage of people seeking the face of God, and also it was all over that people are praying the Shema. They're in the streets. Everybody's seeking the Lord. So this has brought Israel to prayer.
Brooke McKay, correct me on this, but Syria, ancient Assyria was basically, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. It's pretty much all, and it's also Syria. So the ancient, because the Antichrist is called the Assyrian. Ancient Assyria covers all that area, from all the way from Persia all the way to all the way to Greece, basically all the way Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. It's all of Syria.
Yeah. So to Doyle's question of, do you think the war will escalate? I think you guys are in similar agreement that I think that the fears of World War III are pretty low at the moment. I think things shockingly went a lot less violent than people would have expected to. So I wouldn't be super fearful of that. And things might be calming down anytime soon. But to the question of what is Iran in prophecy in the Bible, he also was asking about how is Iran referred to in the Bible. And so my understanding is Iran is referenced in terms of prophecy. The only one I know about is in Daniel 8, where Daniel refers to the two-horned ram, and that's the Medes and the Persians. Because historically, for those at home that aren't familiar, the Median Confederation or the Median Empire ruled over most of what is today Iran, and then was itself overthrown by Cyrus and the Persian Empire. It wasn't so much it was a new country as it was the Median Empire under new management. And so the Magi and the Medes were still like the government, but the Persians ruled over them. So in the Bible, it was often referred to as the Medo-Persian Empire. And in Daniel's the prophecy there being described, he said a two-horned ram, like one had one kind of horn and it had a different kind of horn on one side to represent that country. But other than that, I'm not familiar with any prophecies that talk about it. Are you guys familiar? I know it's mentioned obviously in Esther and stuff like that, but in terms of prophecy, do you guys know any examples of Iran being mentioned in the Bible?
Right now, modern day Iran is a collection of different people, including the Persian people, the Persian Empire, but you also have many minorities that make up part of it, the Armenians, Turkmens, Kurdish, Balochis. You have a lot of different Arabs in the southwest. So it's a confederation right now, but usually when we talk about Persia, Persia is like the main ethnic group, the Persians, and so what you see, a lot of people will speak about Persians and Iranians interchangeably, and the language is Persian, Farsi. Farsi is Persian in Persian, and so Persia is mentioned many times. It's it's the subject of Purim of the whole book of Esther.
So you're a language person. Is Farsi one of the languages that you know very much?
I know it to an extent. Yeah, right. I speak it a little bit, but Persian so the thing is Persia, and actually the only non-Jew that's mentioned to be called anointed in the Bible is a Persian, is a King Cyrus, and so this is something where there was a friendship, an ancient friendship between the Persians and the Jews that lasted really up until there's ups and downs, but really the most tumultuous time has been since 1979, the revolution. But even then, if you look into the Iran-Contra affair, there was some backdoors, which Rabbi Roy knows a little bit about. But the thing is, it was still complicated. But the thing is, Persians and Jews have been friends for a long time, for a very long time. It's just recently where you had something really difficult. The Persians were the ones that the temple was rebuilt under Persian
Because
rule.
of them.
Under Persian rule, the second temple was built there with they gave the go ahead to go ahead and do this. And so Netanyahu actually mentioned this, that there's a thousands-year-old friendship between the Persians and the Jews. And so this is something that he wants to restore with the Persian people. And so right now it's just the government, which was, right.
Many people don't remember the Shah of Iran. The Shah of Iran, there was a link with us. How many people remember the Shah of Iran? The Shah of Iran, actually, his son actually owned a restaurant here in San Antonio after he was exiled. But here's a question.
It just says shalom from Israel. Oh, shalom for Israel. Blessings to all. Amen.
And also, you mentioned in the book of Daniel, the book of Ezekiel 38 speaks of Persia. So both of those are very real. But it does show that there's such a hatred against America and Israel. And again, people ask questions at the very last minute. We didn't have time. It says, why do people hate us so much? Is it very political? I say it's not political at all. It's all a religious war. And so when you see it as religious war, they're trying to take over America. And I had so many questions at the end. In fact, I told you, I don't know if I was going to post everything. My daughter got married this weekend, and so I didn't get to post everything. But they said, why doesn't England's leadership is now out of it. They're not commenting everything. It's because look at all of the leaders of England, from the Prime Minister to the Mayor of London to the Mayor of something like around 10 cities. What do they all have in common? They're all Muslim. That's why England has not patted United States on the back.
Well, yeah, the prime minister is Hindu. The mayors of several things are Muslim, right. But and there is a strong friendship between India and Israel at this time. But the thing is, Rabbi mentioned Ezekiel 38, so in 39, and it's repeated in Revelation 20. It talks about Gog and Magog. So just to tell you what that is in one word. Ezekiel 38, 39, Revelation 20, in one word, is a world war centered in Israel. That's what it talks about, because what you have here is you got to know how to look at the text. A lot of the countries that are mentioned in Ezekiel 38 no longer, they're ethnic groups and countries that no longer exist. And so how do you look at it? Well, Revelation 20 tells you how to look at it. Because when Revelation is written, those groups are already gone. So what you look at it, you talk about, you have from the north, from the south, from the east, from the west, converging on Israel. And then Revelation 20 tells you how to interpret Ezekiel 38 and 39, which is it's from the four corners of the earth. It's a world war is what is being talked about. And we have the way to interpret it in Revelation 20. So world war centered there. Is this it? I don't think so.
Pastor don't you think?
Because there's not a strong enough alliance with people besides. I mean, it's too weak of an alliance right now. I don't think this is it.
Right,
But
Pastor Monty, you went to Israel. Did you feel safe there?
Totally. We went everywhere. This was 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago. And, I mean, we went to the Libyan border. We went to Jericho. We went wherever we wanted to go. We felt absolute freedom to go. And now, when we returned, there was about 3 weeks later, there was an attack at one of the outposts where we were close to. But no, we felt totally safe. Let me just say one thing about, the issue. You can read Ezekiel 36, and you can see that in God bringing Israel back to the land, it was about his name being honored. And God is very intent that his word is going to be true, and he is going to be honored for who he is, and that the primary attack against Israel is really an attack against him. So it's a demonic attack, and one of the things that's going on, and we'll talk about this later with some of the other questions, but there's a lot of people today that they have no idea why they are standing with the Islamic side, because it wouldn't even make sense if they understand the truth or the facts of anything, because it's a demonic conspiracy, all designed to keep God's word from coming to pass, involving Israel, involving us, involving all of the things that he has designed to come forth. The enemy is very intent, and of course we all know the enemy is not going to be successful in any of it, but there will be a war. And we talk about Iran, and we talk about Ezekiel 38, Persia is mentioned in a confederation of people, of what will come against Israel. I don't think we're there, but I do believe we're in a time when all of this is getting set up. I think people are taking their positions. I think we're starting to see some things starting to unfold that will cause those things that are designed to come forth are going to come forth. But I don't think we're there yet.
And just a quick programming note. I just double checked because I wanted to make sure. The current Prime Minister of UK is actually an atheist. The Starmer. It was the previous Prime Minister, Sunak, that was the Hindu. So, just
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Apologies to our UK viewers.
Yes.
Just wanted to make
Thank
sure.
you for updating.
Bobby had a quick question or comment?
Yeah. Well, this is my own personal opinion looking at Scripture. The first part of tribulation period will just be a regional war in the Middle East because the four horsemen, they go north or south of Jerusalem. They do not go around the world. Second, this is a prelude. The destruction of Islam in Tehran has been very discouraging to the Muslims. They believe their God has not come through for them, so they're very discouraged. So this is not going to be their uprising now. They're going to have a downfall, and this will give Israel the idea that there will be peace, but God says there'll be no peace. So this is what we should expect, that there will be a peace treaty coming very shortly, because in Europe, the Bible prophesies about Europe, the iron and the clay will not mix. Those are the Muslims and the Jews. You cannot understand how they're
I have to
taking
say real
over.
quick, this isn't central theology where we speak. This is his opinion to say that the iron
is
and clay
my
is Muslims and the Jews. Right, is your
Right.
opinion.
So you have to look at the situation here. They are going to reorganize in the future. So that's what you should, don't expect a world war. A world war should be later. You have to keep things in perspective, and God's not that anxious on getting these things done.
All right. Well, we have getting into chapter 27. You wanna
I'm
say-
so one more thing I just want to know about asking why is there anti-Semitism. So here's the thing: there's been a couple of times, and there's a story. I'm probably gonna be saying it till I'm old. Is when I was biking in Austin, and I was biking in the park, and I turned, and my bike fell, and my chain came off the bike. And so, I busted myself up a little bit. It was there. I fell right in the middle of a neo-Nazi a picnic with everyone had all these swastikas there, and I landed right in the middle of it. They go, "Are you all right?"
Did you have your yarmulke on?
No, I didn't have it on. And they're all there, and they had big old like swastikas everywhere. I was like, oh. And so they're saying, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm trying to get the chain on the bike again. And they're like, come on, man. And then they're saying, and they go, "Yeah." They go, "So where are you from?" And I'm like, where? I'm like, Texas. And so, but anyways, another time, which is just maybe like a few weeks or maybe a month later, I was in a cafe, and right next to me stood a guy that was, and I asked him a lot of things about why they hate Jews and anyone who's Jewish or black or minorities, and there's a long list actually they had problems with, I found out. But then, I already knew, but, confirmed. And then I got into the cafe another time, but I asked him, and it's just a lot of misunderstandings. There's a lot of things, and this one guy, in the cafe, he had a swastika, and I decided to tell him. I looked, we were all crowded, and there was a table full of police officers getting stuff here, so I looked at him and go, "I'm Jewish." And he's like, "All right." And I was like, so why do you hate me? Why do you want to kill me, out of curiosity? And he's like, "I don't hate you." And he's like, you're just this and this. There's all these things that you hear over and over again that are misunderstandings that get recycled. For instance, some people think, one of the things is they think that the Talmud is like the secret little book that Jews keep, and all Jews have this secret thing, and they have this secret hatred in them, and they hate Gentiles. No, it's not that. Number one, the Talmud's a huge volume that most Jews don't read through. The second thing is it's arguments. It's Rabbi A arguing against Rabbi B, arguing against Rabbi C, and then third of all, it's just the things are either taken out of context, or if they are in context and very questionable, it's very small. But it's not something that the whole point of the Talmud is it's arguing against each other. But then there's other things where there's just misunderstandings. Jews weren't allowed to. Anyways, what the main thing is this: when they could talk to a Jewish person face to face and see that there's a human, and it's just not just something that is superhuman or subhuman. It could be that's important. So talking,
Nice.
when anti-Semites talk to Jews face to face, see them as humans. That's what's important.
All right. Okay, Gabriel has something on the screen. It says, Israel is always going to be under attack no matter what time of year it is, because according to Matthew, it talks about that. We don't know what the day or the hour when stuff will happen. All right, so we do have to move on. We got chapter 27, verses 1 through 10. We're getting to the point where Jesus is delivered to Pilate and Judas hangs himself. So it has, when morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conspired against Jesus and to put him to death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. So we have a question here from Stephanie. She said, I read ahead in our study on Matthew 27 where Pilate's wife was warned in a dream. It did make me wonder, does God still speak to us in dreams today? I've been having a reoccurring dream about my grandma who's now with Jesus. In the dream, she's warning me about a friend I spend time with. While my grandma never liked me being close to her, partly because my friend grew up in a very harsh home, this friend has always cared about me and our friendship. She does have a wild side, but she's still someone I consider close. These dreams have been bothering me, and I don't know what to do. Could this be God telling me something? So she's actually referencing Matthew 27:19, but since Pilate's being brought up here and he's being brought before Pilate, I figured we'd go ahead and tackle this one.
Sure. Yeah, it would, one of the things I just want to, because your question really isn't about what happened with Pilate's wife, but she did have a dream. And because of the dream, I think that's why Pilate washed his hands of the, because he couldn't stop what he felt the people were demanding, but yet she still had the prophetic dream. So we talk about dreams. Just want to bring up one thing. In the book of Acts, chapter 2, as Peter, is his great sermon on the day of Pentecost, is bringing up the message from Joel. And I'll just read one right here. In Acts 2:17, he says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God." Remember, says God, "I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters, they will prophesy, and your young men will see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams." Recently I had what I wasn't sure was a dream or a vision, so we determined it was a vision because I'm still a young man.
I like that.
But the thing of it is, as we get into these last days, the supernatural realm, our spiritual connectivity to God and what He's releasing, it's going to start taking, you're going to see more things in your realm of your spirit. You're going to hear things in your spirit. You will see dreams, you will see visions, and you will have dreams, and you will prophesy, because prophetic words come through the realm of the spirit to you, and they may come to you as a vision, a dream, or it could be just a word spoken to you by the Lord Himself. But I just want to say, don't question. If you're having a reoccurring dream, ask Holy Spirit for interpretation. Tell me what this means. And, there may be a warning about the friend that you may not see, that the friend might try to get you to do something that could be harmful to you in some way. I'm just saying, you need to be listening in your spirit. God, what are you saying to me? Ask Him.
How do you know? How can Stephanie know whether that dream is of the Lord or of her own personal feelings?
Well, I mean to say, it comes from your walk with the Lord, and you're hearing more and more. There will be an awareness in your spirit that this is something from God, and it will speak volumes to you. And your own personal pizza dreams won't do that. But if it's of God, there's going to be more of it, and you're going to be hearing more things, and God's going to be speaking to you more. So ask Him. Don't just rely on that one. Right. Say, okay, God, tell me more. What is it that you're trying to here's what I would do. I would assume it's from God, unless you hear it otherwise. So you just come and say, okay, God, what are you telling me to do? You're causing my attention to be drawn to this relationship. Lord, I look to you for revelation, for guidance, for wisdom to know what to do.
Hello. All right. Since a lot of our minds are on end times and all that, I've been doing a little reading and came back to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 11, where it says, "Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. That day will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat." So my question is about the phrase "and speed its coming." That seems to imply like there's some kind of agency that we have in the end times. Can you guys speak to that at all? I know the first thing that comes to my mind is like spreading the gospel and how we're supposed to have it reach all the corners of the earth. Is that kind of what they mean by speeding its coming, or is that possibly something else? Because I see here in a footnote, I don't know exactly where the footnote came from, but it also says, "or as you wait eagerly for the day of God to come." So I know in the original Greek it does say hasten, like the word is hasten. So just trying to get some clarity on that.
Wait, what verse?
This is 2 Peter verse 11, or 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 11 through 12.
Right. So can you sum up the thing?
I was going to ask, is your question? Is your question that is prophecy going to become more prevalent as the end times come? Is that your question?
No, I'm trying to get clarity on, so when it says in Matthew 25, when Jesus is talking about like no one knows when the end times are going to come, not even the angels or him. And does that have anything to do with this? Because it seems like the way Peter's writing, this is from 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 11 and 12. The verse I'm referring to is 12, really. And it says, as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming, or hasten its coming.
Right.
So, yeah.
Are you saying that we could have something to do with the hastening? Is
Yeah,
that
that's
the
what I'm
question?
asking.
Right, so
I'm saying it seems to imply that there's some kind of agency that we have
Okay.
on earth to do something with that
Yeah, I
day.
mean, I'm sure they'll have more insights than I will, but like just speaking as a history person, I would say yes, simply because I think there's a number of examples in history where the world could have ended, and through the actions of people, we were at that Noah's flood moment, and then we said, okay, we're going to repent. We were at that moment when Assyria was going to be destroyed, and then we repented. You have issues and situations in Rome. You had, I think World War II was one of those examples where people said, you know what, we're going to stand against this, and the world didn't end. But that's just me speaking as a history person, not as a theologian like you guys. So what are your guys' thoughts? What agency do we have to either? We talked about the guys with the atom bomb in Iran. There's several people in that government who believe using the bomb will hasten the end of the world, and that's why they're so scared of them having it. So. Mm-hmm.
Give it back to Rabbi.
I was just kidding. That's why they're trying to hasten everything. They want to hasten the end of the world for Islamic to take place. But to point out your question, first I was going to say, can we hasten? I really believe that the Lord in his infinite wisdom knows when he's going to return. Now, no man knows the day nor the hour. There's actually different feasts of God that they actually say no man knows the day or the hour. Because like we have different feasts have an exact time. But there's sometimes that the feasts begin, they said no man knows the day nor the hour. But again, in book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, it says, of times and seasons, brothers, you don't need to be ignorant. Times and seasons is an idiom for the feast of God. And if we could see that Yeshua was conceived on a feast, he died on a feast, he was born on a feast, he resurrected on a feast, I do believe that he's going to come back on a feast. Which one? That's debatable. Pastor Monty has his thoughts on that too. But as far as, very good question, can we know that, I think the time will be, there'll be so much going on. Pastor Monty can be soon, and it's Seth, Rabbi Brook, look what's going on. I believe the anticipation of his coming, that there's going to be a great, great revival that's going to take place before his coming. And that revival, I believe, is happening even now.
See, I think one of the critical things that plays a major role is the scripture I just read from Acts. And it said, in the last days, God says, I'm going to pour out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters are going to prophesy. They're going to tell things forth. They're going to release things, because God says, I do not do anything unless I first tell my prophets, because of what he did in establishing us as the authority on earth. He works through that. And so he has to the word has to come through us. And it comes through us primarily is in a prophetic telling forth of what the Lord is saying. This is going to take place. This is necessary. You need to make these changes. You need to go this way. You need to do that. And I think that's why in the last days, prophecy is going to play such a major role.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I'm gathering is that prophecy and maybe us like doing feast or participating in feast more, basically hastening the coming of the Lord. So maybe like preparing kind of the world to receive God by taking part in his feast and using the Spirit the way he gifted us to spread the word of the gospel. Is that kind of sound right, or?
Well, I mean, even in, what is it, John, I'm losing up, I can't think of it, 7:14, I think it is, or 12:40. Anyway, it says that that our preaching the gospel of the kingdom is what will bring forth the end of times.
Oh.
So that's our, and preaching and prophecy are close.
Mm.
They're very close together, because we're told that that our words are to be as if they were the very oracles of God. We need to be. There's not much difference in prophesying and preaching, because it needs to be. I'm not just telling you something I think is a good thing to say. I'm hearing this from God, and so I think those kinds of things are going to set in motion things that are going to, I think, speed up the end times, or actually cause plans of the enemy to be destroyed at a time in which the enemy planned major events. Because I think if we're really listening, I think we can stop many things the enemy has planned. So there's a lot. I'm just saying, prophecy is going to play a major role in the end times.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Right, and again, one of the things I do like to emphasize is that no man knows the day nor the hour. So the thing is, given that to keep on praying, Yeshua talks about the parable of the virgins keeping the oil lit. That's also very, very relevant here. Sometimes people come to me with calculations, that the world's gonna end on October.
Last week we were having the person ask about the codes and the language and stuff like that. It's like,
Right, and some of it's legitimate, like with the number of the beast, and some of it's very questionable. But the thing is, people, I've lost count of how many people come to me and say it's gonna end, April 3rd or whatever, and then whenever it doesn't happen, then it's like, well, I forgot to carry the one or whatever, and I'm like, no, but it says no man knows the day nor the hour, and so the thing is, and part of that is not it's part of that is spiritual, because you got to keep your oil lit. Here's the other thing, even we're talking about in the New Testament, you talk about parousia, coming of God and the Lord. But, I mean, also, in our own personal lives, we don't know when the Lord's going to call us individually home. And so you still have to keep your oil.
That's a great point.
Your oil lit there, too, because I think a lot of people, they worry, they do that so much. But, again, how does Yeshua say how to approach this to keep your lamps filled with oil? So, I mean, yeah. So again, Lord might call. We don't know when He's going to call any of us home, and so we just have to keep that. We just need to, stay. Keep your lamps filled with oil. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, on what he was speaking about there, in prophecy, in Revelations, it's talking about the time of trouble, or the 7-year tribulation, and also the end, at the end of the millennia. So you have to look at the verses and use some discretion. When it says the end of the world, it's talking about after the millennia. If it's saying that the days it will no longer be as they were, that's talking about the 7 years. Unless those days be shortened, the earth will not be destroyed. God will shorten those days to where it is fulfilled and we'll go into the millennia. So you must, and it's like, for instance, it prophesies that the earth will wobble as a drunkard. Well, that's not during the tribulation, because everyone would be destroyed at that time. But at the end of the millennia, when the earth wobbles, the earth will be destroyed.
All right, so
Let me just make one quick comment. There's something new on the internet with all these going on. I don't know, it's in Hebrew. Actually, I was listening to it last night. My wife says, "What are you doing?" I'm listening to, it's all in Hebrew. One of the main rabbis from Jerusalem, with all these things going on, he comes on. There's a channel. It's a Hebrew, 100% Hebrew station. And he said something that I heard before, and I want you to hear it. It's really important. When God gave the Torah to Israel, it said, and all of Israel said, I do. Remember, it's all of Israel. He says, when that happens again, when all of Israel will say, I do, then the Messiah will come. Never before has there been such a great revival as this past last Yom Kippur. Because of October 7th, because of what's going on, the people are drawn to the Lord. But yet, the largest gay parade in the history of the world took place last week. You know where it was? In Tel Aviv. So you could see the enemy knows that there's something going on, but at the same time, so many Israelis are coming to faith. So many Israelis are wanting to seek the Lord. Perhaps it'll be soon. I believe it could be soon. I believe things are going to happen, but praise God that I believe that the Lord will return soon for his people. But that's what he said. When all of Israel says, again, I'll let you say we will do, then the Messiah comes. Very interesting.
Yeah, and that's a great encouragement. I remember it was when I was younger that there was a preacher talking about how the world wouldn't end until everyone's heard of the Messiah and everyone's had an opportunity to convert. And so the argument was actually given that this is why we shouldn't evangelize to people, because the moment everybody gets evangelized to, that's the moment the world ends. Which is just the opposite of what you were saying. It's the idea that you should fear the end of the world. That the end of the world is this bad things. Like the end of the world is God coming home. It's the end of the world is restoration. The things though that you should want to, as he said, hasten it and such.
Life doesn't end; it just begins.
But
Actually.
you could see, like, even, I don't know if there's something on YouTube right now, the people, the Bedouins. What are the Bedouins? What are the people in the southern part, the most distant part of India and in Africa and all these other places in the Peru, where the desolate areas, they all have internet now. And everybody's able to hear the gospel. So can all the people hearing the gospel through the internet be one of the tools of, and all the world will hear the gospel? That possibly is it, and it's being translated in their own languages.
You know, when first time I went to Israel, we were going down close to the Dead Sea area, that whole area, and we went by an encampment of Bedouins. Every tent had a satellite, and there was this Bedouin out there with his sheep, and he had a phone and he was talking on a cell phone. So that image has never left me. So I believe what you're saying is absolutely true.
Right, and so here's some Greek and Hebrew for you. So if you look at, we're looking at 2 Peter 3:12, which says, look for and hasting into the covenant of the day of God. And so you ask about that hasting, which is a great question. So the word for to look forward to, how does it say it here in the English? It says, as you wait or look for it, it says prostagontas, is towards seeming, and that's translated as like hoping for. And then it says the speeding, the hasting. There you go, up there. There you go. And the speeding is spildontas, is hurrying, right? Speeding. You see something similar in Isaiah 16:5, where you talk about, it says the last part of it. It says, and he established in mercy the throne, and I'm reading it backwards. And the throne v'yeshev alav be'emet, and he will sit on it in truth. Behod David, in the tent of David, or the tabernacle of David. Shofet u'doresh mishpat, judging and seeking. So it says seeking mahir tzedek, and hastening righteousness. So you see this idea of seeking, hoping for, and hastening mentioned, those two words mentioned in Isaiah 6. I would love to see the Greek translation of this as well, but Isaiah 16:5. And so here that's talking about Isaiah 16:5 is something that has that parallel. So it's talking about looking for it in
Stephanie McClure just texted me. I was through my email. She says, "What does the word Maranatha mean? What does the word Maranatha mean?" I'm asking these.
Agree with marathon?
Maranatha. The Bible talks about the word Maranatha. She wants to answer. Go ahead and answer that. What? So Stephanie, there's his answer. What does Maranatha mean?
it's Aramaic. It's saying for God to come, Lord to come.
Yeah, it just, the first church I pastored was Maranatha Baptist Church.
Oh yeah. So she's asking, what does the word Maranatha mean? So that's.
And it's, I mean, we're just, we're believing, Lord, come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, calling him to come. Because I think, you know, I love the concept of hastening because it's not something we dread or are fearful of. It's actually, I'm more excited because I believe God has plans for us. We have no idea what the next chapter of eternity is going to look like for us. But it's going to be amazing.
And we got Gabriel here again. It says in Matthew chapter 23, verses 37 to 39, it says, "You will see me no more until all the Jews can say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." That's the verse you guys were referencing earlier. Yeah, and so in terms of agency, I mean, it's the class we've discussed this a little bit before, but you have verses about like the story of Mordecai and Esther, where God says, like, Mordecai tells Esther, God's plan is to save the Jews, but you, Esther, have agency in how you're going to be involved in that plan. In Samuel, they're asking for a king, and God talks to Samuel and says, well, my plan is not for them to have a king. I'm their king. But I'm willing to play in their sandbox. So I will adapt the plan to their wants, but I'm still the guy that gets to decide where the train is going. And we have, we talk about, Jesus talks about what you bind in on earth, I will bind in heaven and stuff like that. So we have agency, but the plan is God's, but we can act within that plan.
These are really good discussion questions, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this one a while. This is pretty deep. So to wrap up Stephanie's question, because I want to make sure she goes home feeling that hers was answered and all the aspects of it, because I think we only have time for a couple more little questions. She talked about interpreting dreams and seeing how valid it was. You talked about how you should pray for confirmation that that's from God. So a couple of quick follow-ups for that, just to clarify for her. You talk about it could be from, like, you had a pizza last night or something. This could be something of your flesh. This could be something of you, your own psychology trying to tell you something. Does Satan have the power to give you dreams?
Well, you ever had a nightmare? I mean, there are
is that
things
something she should be asking God about? Is this some kind of demonic influence, and do I
Right.
need to make sure it's from God?
That's what you
or is it
wanna-
only the two options? Is either by default is it's God, or it could just be I had some bad Swiss cheese.
Well, you
Right.
open the door, and the enemy will bring thoughts. And he will bring things against you, and he will cause. So one of the things is, does this dream cause fear? If it causes fear, it's very unlikely that it's from God. If it speaks of there's something you need to learn and to do, then that's more likely coming from God.
I want to make quick. My daughter got married this past weekend. Praise the Lord. The last one out of the coop. And I received so many people saying, the mother saying, I'm so glad that my daughter met your daughter because she was a great influence in her life from all over. But at the same time, my heart broke because I received a phone call, and I stand here knowing the importance of what I'm about to say. Where a man called me, says, my heart is broken because my daughter is now playing on the other team, if you know what I mean. And when she was in high school, then in college, she spent the night over a friend's house and introduced her to some ugly things from drugs to this and that. So parents, we need to realize she's saying she's having her grandmother's saying, be careful with this girl. Be careful with the friends that you choose. Iron sharpens iron. Parents, don't let your kids just spend the night anyplace else. I'm talking with a man now. He said, my daughter spent the night at this place and she was abused. And it was a family friend. So I'm saying right now, if your grandmother is having you this dream, have second thoughts. Are you being an influence on her, bringing her towards the things of the Lord, or is she being an influence on you, taking away the things of God?
That is a great message. All right. So, moving on to chapter 27, verse 3, says, when Judas had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was filled with remorse, and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders. I have sinned by betraying innocent blood, he said. What is that to us? They replied. You bear the responsibility. So Judas threw the silver into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. So we've got another question here that's it's pretty sensitive, and the connection isn't exactly intuitive, but it's talking about the shedding of innocent blood and putting the blame onto others. And so we have a person here sending a message asking, Rabbi, we have a problem in our family. Our daughter, who is a student at UTSA, is very pro-Palestine. She's fully brainwashed by the crowd with whom she associates. So that what you were just talking about with her friends. I know you used to work for the Israeli government. Do you know if we can acquire a video of the horror that was October 7th? I'm not sure we can get her to watch it, but she needs to see the truth to make a truly informed decision about those with whom she now stands. Thank you, and I apologize for bothering you with this. So he or she is
The
really
question
hurt.
actually, you know who that person is.
I do, but I'm intentionally not saying the name or giving any pronouns or something to
Right.
indicate anything.
We know the person. He's part of our fellowship, and he's
And we're not going to say any more details about him.
yeah. We're not going to tell details.
We're not going to say that he's 4'11", weighs 310 pounds,
But
works out every Tuesday, sits right there in the front row. We're not going to say any of those things.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's actually. This is a very sincere question. The answer is, can we get a hold of the tape of the video? I think it's 56 minutes long of what happened in October 7th. He actually called me up and said, can we show it? The answer is yes, we could get a hold of it. Yes, I have a copy of it. Yes, it's a horrible video. And if you'd like to see it, or if anybody's interested in seeing it, what is that video that he's speaking of? On October 7th, Hamas, they took Go cams and they show video of them saying horrible things, worshiping false gods, and doing all these things. They show pictures of themselves taking drugs. They're high on the most horrible things, and then they go and they commit horrible acts. October 7th video actually shows the murder of people. So I don't encourage you to show it to any individual that is not able to receive it. No children whatsoever. But can we get a hold of it? Yes, we have that tape.
This is literally the reason why there's a lot of states that have in their law books, before you're allowed to get an abortion, you have to see an ultrasound of the child. Because it affects you. It's like you need to see what you're about to do.
Right.
But what's so interesting, you all, is that this video, it's so horrible what it shows. But Rabbi Brooke mentioned Greta Thunberg. You know that when she said, oh, I've been kidnapped, I've been all these other things, but they showed them giving her food. They showed her October 7th. You know what she did when they were showing her the video? She closed her eyes and refused to see it. So can we see the video? The answer is yes. Contact me. He asked if we could show it in the congregation. The answer is no. It's too bad.
Yeah.
It is.
Just the description of what happened is far too graphic.
I don't want to show it in the congregation, but if you meet with me privately, I could show you the link, or I could actually send you the link. But when you see the link, it'll break your heart, especially when you see the children, the babies. Okay.
So the other thing is even without seeing the video, one of the things is on the college campus there's a growing I could talk about this for 3 hours, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just say this. I was on I went to I was in UT Austin, and I see this very simplified dichotomy of oppressed versus oppressor, and then that's it. That's the end of the story. And it's if you have the worst kind of person is if you're male, and if you are heterosexual, and if you are Christian, then you can't get any worse than that. Just being born into that thing. And I've talked to them. I want to understand. I've talked to a lot of the people, and it's a very simplified view of there's oppressor versus oppressed, colonizer versus colonized. And the thing is, and I'm not going to get into the nuances of that, but even if you were to just accept that and not even challenge that, it still becomes problematic once you look at just basic facts about Israel. And I think the vast majority of college students right now, you talk to them, you say, what river, what sea? A few of them might know, but a lot of them are like, the Red Sea? No, that's not the sea that they're talking about. They're talking about, I'm not going to tell them. It'll be when they say from the river to the sea, they'll probably not know what it is, So, but the thing is they, I just saw an activist map of people trying to march to Rafah, and they had the map of international people there. If you saw, they're stopped at the border by the Egyptians. In their map, they had Rafah and Eilat on the opposite side. They're on the wrong sea. These people, they haven't, before October 7th, they knew Israel was, maybe it's close to Russia. I don't know. They didn't know anything about this stuff. And now they think they're experts, and it's so complex. So here's something that the vast majority of these college students don't know. And this is something that you could tell her. One thing to tell her is that the vast majority of Israeli Jews that are there, first of all, 2 million of the citizens there are Muslim Arabs that have full voting rights and can become doctors, and one of them put an Israeli president in jail. A lot of people don't know that. Okay. Second of all, most Israeli Jews. So I think the most important thing is this: that whenever I talk to these people, they don't know this, that have this kind of oppressor, oppressed, colonizer, colonized dichotomy. This is something that's very specific to the college campus. Is they don't know that the vast majority of Israeli Jews are refugees or descendants of refugees. If you go into any cafe in Israel and you see, where are you from? Why are you here? Why are you here? They're like, we had no other place to go. My family was wiped out in Poland. My family was kicked out of Algeria. My family was, all our businesses were destroyed in Iraq during the Farhud. People don't know these things. They don't know it. They just think that they're just bored one day and say, let's just go colonize this land in the Middle East. We're Europeans. They don't know that the vast majority of Israeli Jews are refugees or descendants of refugees. And that turns that college narrative that you see of oppressor versus oppressed, colonizer versus colonized on its head, where they just don't know it. They don't know it. And it's the truth. The other thing that they don't know is, and that's the biggest thing, is that the vast majority, and that the majority of Israeli Jews are not even of the Ashkenazi, Eastern European descent. But still, the main thing is that they didn't have any place to go. They say, why don't they just go live in America? Well, they tried. They got on ships. They went to America during World War II, and America said, no Jews allowed. You need to go back. So whenever you're talking to a college student, make sure they know that, because it's that paradigm, and they just don't know the facts. that it's just a place of refugees. They didn't have anywhere else to go. Just let her know that to begin with.
A lot of them are being paid by, Qatar mostly. That's why but a lot of these universities are just so much money is coming in from the Middle East.
Very true.
And so that's why these universities are so subservient to the Muslim cause, because so much cash is coming in. And
Billions of dollars.
And
Billions.
that also is, they get these flash mobs. Everybody gets, $50 whatever for showing up. That's how a lot of people they're actually professional. They don't have to know why they're protesting. They just have to be a warm body showing about a particular site and saying, from the river to the sea. That's all they have to know is that little mantra, and that's the shallowness of their knowledge.
And the thing is, you say from river to sea, say, okay, what now? What do you do from that? What's the stance? You want to kick out all the Jews? And usually they say no, or except for the extreme ones. But the thing is, they just don't know how complicated it is. Let her know that she's protesting, putting all of her hatred towards a country of refugees that had no other place to go, except for a few people. There are people who moved from Philadelphia to East Jerusalem, but yes.
One other point you mentioned, like Iran right now is one of the most oppressive regimes in the world. I mean, no one of these protesters would want to go there and live. Not under the. I mean, if you were a woman there, you're no more than a possession, a dog.
But they will protest. Some of them will protest for them because they just say it's so simplified. They go,
Yeah,
oh,
it really is just the oppressor thing. It is a very simplified moral code. It's the reason people said, like, even if you do the crime and he does the crime, even if it's the same crime, because you're of this race or because you're of that class, you did not commit a crime. Your crime was actually caused by him. It is a very specific moral code.
It's amazing. Which brings up, so what we're really dealing with, and what I would say to this man with a daughter, this is a demonic deception that is manipulating and controlling people's thoughts. And so one thing I would do is that I would begin to sincerely pray and break off the deception and the lies off of your daughter, and that she would have clear vision, clear understanding to see the truth, and that every plan of the enemy is broken. And you mentioned a while ago, what you bind, learn to bind and to loose, and to literally in the spirit set your daughter free from the control of this demonic influence.
Right.
So you think prayer with your daughter?
Oh, a lot of times what we do is we do that at the last resort, and that needs to be our primary focus.
Love that. I love that.
Right.
We need to be praying and breaking off all of this control on your daughter. I mean, we've seen it time and time again with people, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like they have their minds change. I mean, they change. So, don't
He should be
be
praying
fearful.
for his daughter.
Don't be fearful, but be full of faith, full of expectation, full of expecting to see his daughter, and that your prayers and that your declarations over her are going to carry great weight and have great results in her life.
Amen. And I'm sorry, I know this is taking a long time, but I just want to say the Palestinian people, we want them to have a wonderful life. It's not the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people I've spoken, it's the government. The government, whether it's the PA or Hamas, both of them, there's no elections for either the PA or for Hamas, or Fatah, Hamas. No elections. It's just complete. So they're oppressing their own people there. So we do want the Palestinian people to be living in peace as well. We want there to be peace on both borders, but it's not going to happen by just seething hatred. That's not going to be the way forward.
Yeah, and it's a very difficult thing to deal with because it's a hierarchy of oppression. And when after October the 7th happened, a lot of the campuses and a lot of the discussion in those groups, the only concession that was talked about at the time was, well, maybe we should reclassify the Jews as an oppressed class instead of an oppressor class, which does not fix the problem. The moral structure you have is evil and wrong. Just reclassifying them as an oppressed class does not resolve the underlying dilemma.
My pet theory, because I've known a lot of academics, why this is, because it's all related to it's a lot of them. I'm just going to be really blunt here. Is a lot of them work really hard. They do their PhD. They do all this stuff. They're in there for years in academia, and then when they're done, they get a adjunct professorship for very little money, less than what a middle school teacher makes sometimes, and then they're like, of course they're going to feel oppressed after that. And so I think they really emphasize that. And I'm just saying, I've known these people personally, so I really think that's what feeds into it.
Yeah. All right. Any last comments on this?
One last comment. How real does it hit home here in San Antonio? This past week, somebody from Palestine came up to me, said, we're praying for Israel. We're being oppressed. That was this Sunday. Somebody told me that. Second, Friday, a guy came up to me, says, I work for the sheriff's department and with ICE. He said, I'm all for free protest, but what they're seeing right now is people are being paid in San Antonio to go and press. It has nothing to do with the immigration or this, but now they have Palestinian flags, destroy Israel, Israel this, and they're mixing it up with the protests that are going down, and that are taking place in San Antonio. He said, I saw it with my own eyes, and there were these people here, and then they're sending, some paid group is sending these other people here to bring in, not immigration, it has to do with the Israeli conflict.
I'm happy to answer her questions, by the way. If she wants to submit her questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Very nice. All right. Well, I believe we are out of time for tonight. We do have a couple more questions on the docket. But
What a study, you guys. This is a fantastic study.
Yeah, we got really deep in that tonight. And so if we could have Aaronic Blessing come up next week.
As you
we're
come,
going to be meeting next week.
Yeah, as he comes, just remember, we keep praying for Israel. And keep your eyes open and keep watching what's going to take place. And it's going to happen probably within next Tuesday. It's going to be an interesting time, so don't miss it.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And so we also, Yeshua says to pray for our enemies. So that's the biggest test here, is praying for them. Again, this is what we want is freedom. As the Persian people, they talk about Zan al-Zadi, Zindagi, which means the woman, freedom, and life. That's the slogan there, and so we do want that for the Persian people, particularly. And then as we have this, we continue to pray for peace.
Very nice. Well, thank you everybody for coming. If you have a question, do feel free to scan the QR code or email roygarciasa@gmail.com or text the number you see on the screen. We're going to have the Aaronic benediction. We're going to be back here next week. Other than that, thank you all for coming. God bless.
Yivrechach Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. B'Shem Yeshua.